Many thanks to fellow Destruction Squad, Collection of the servers, Seattle's Cloud, 7RP server, the Struggle community, the Camera Crew servers, Friendly DayZ Podcast, DayZ servers, Reclamation server, and the Settlement for making this video possible. The DayZ team have shown us their plan for 2026, and they've also released the first ever Badlands dev blog. So I'm going to show you what you missed from these screenshots, where these screenshots were taken on the Badlands map, and speculate harder than the crypto bro during alt season. DayZ 1.29 was a lot bigger than the devs were expecting. Even if on the surface it looked like we just got a few clothing items, under the hood DayZ has changed a lot, and that's likely the reason that so much stuff is broken in 1.29. This tells us that 1.29 is a foundational update that future content will be built upon, such as splitting console generation capabilities and allowing the devs to do more with the legacy systems that have held DayZ back for so long. We've seen the first of this with the new terrain blending tech, which isn't exactly the perfect first iteration of this, but I believe that they added this due to how low the foliage count will be on Badlands. If they didn't add this, it would highlight the bad texture blending at a distance, and I guess isn't fully complete based on the new Badlands screenshot that we got just now. Another problem that Badlands may highlight is object and player view distance limitations, with the latest gen consoles confirmed to have improved graphical options with Badlands for likely this very reason. On PC we can jack up our view and object distances, making this less noticeable, but on all platforms player view distance might be an issue. Because they're changing object view distance for console, they're probably discussing player view distance too, which right now is at a lowly 1,100 meters, meaning that a player on this mountain over here will not be able to see a player on this one here. Probably meaning that they're extending player view distances, or at least I really do hope so, as players popping in and out of existence will be extremely noticeable on this map. For the naysayers, Frostline pushed the devs to extend view distances for the exact same reason. The volcano probably highlighted a less than desirable render distance, which actually turned out great. Frostline was also great for Bohemia's bank account, so they'll probably stick to the exact same formula that they went with Frostline, because if it's not broken, don't fix it, but when it comes to 1.29, if it is broken, fix it later, bridging the current version of DayZ to one that's Badlands ready in the form of pre-patches. I strongly believe that 1.29 was the first pre-patch, even though they haven't officially said it. They have said the road to Badlands, but they haven't called this a pre-patch, and it's basically like an experimental version of the tech that will be in Badlands, which would explain why 1.29 is quite easy to point and laugh at. The next major patch, 1.29.5, will be the next pre-patch. That'll be pre-patch 2, and should be a lot more stable hopefully than this one, as this will be the patch that bridges us to 1.30, now confirmed to be the Badlands update. So Badlands will be 1.30, much like 1.26 was a Frostline update. The second reason I believe 1.29 is a pre-patch is because even though we got a major delay with 1.29, Badlands is still somehow scheduled to release this year in the 1.30 update, so much like Frostline, we'll get some final Badlands pre-patch, or pre-patch 3 in this case, in the form of experimental 1.30 around September-October time I'm predicting, with this final pre-patch letting us play with bikes for the first time, much like how we got to play with boats in the 1.26 experimental. The rest of the article speaks of stuff we already know basically, but the final 2 points are interesting, with the first one going over communication skills and how we need them to get loot. Probably a lot like the Valve system in Livonia's bunker, you need to work with somebody to get to floor 3 without dying. My wild take is that the dam can be powered to unlock a military facility of some kind, a lot like how opening doors works on Sakau's bunker. The final bullet point goes over base building improvements, very interesting, but the most important word here is tool. The word tools is used, not tool. We know of the code lock, but what other tools could they mean? Let me know in the comments, I honestly have no idea. But this part on the new take on base building, the systems and the repair part could all mean repairable wells, which we know about already. The same can be said about the first Badlands dev blog. A lot of stuff was repeated here. We know this stuff, but it is an introduction, much like the first Frostline dev blog didn't give too much away, so mostly it's about the new images and what's hidden within them. Starting with the first new image then, we've been given an updated version of the Takistan region, which is exactly the same apart from what's in the Nastara region, or the playable area of Badlands. So the capital city of Nastara has been moved from the east side of the river to the west side of the river, between the two rivers that connects to the lake. The lake looks to be right up close to where they connect, with this lake not being included in previous versions as you can see, and appears to be much larger than the leaked map version that we got with the lake on. In the video where I went over this map leak, I said that the dam structure might be at the southern lake here, but based on this new screenshot, I would say that's unlikely, given that the dam is surrounded by a very mountainous part of the map. This is likely the north of the map, so this screenshot is probably taken from this position here, facing nearly north. This image also confirms that the dam is extremely important to the military. You can see the military presence here on both sides of the dam, supporting the theory that this powers some sort of military facility or military base, with two possible entrances into the dam, up here with this new building, or at the base of the dam here, which is most likely going to be the path that leads into the dam, because you have a path leading to it, a pipe coming out of it, and a massive crack pointing to the door here, so it screams of game developer yellow paint logic. The pipe leading from the dam is intact and leads to a new building with a water turbine inside of it, so this will power anything nearby, or rather the power transformers just outside, and then the pylons here deliver that power to somewhere else. However, this powering of other buildings theory is quite weak still, as water is needed to power this dam, and the only water that's visible in this image is under the slipway here. You can't see any water behind the dam, but it could be hidden behind the dam itself. The next new image is of the large border checkpoint or military checkpoint, the biggest one on the map, and based on the terrain suggests that it could be down here. There's a lot going on in this image too. Great environmental storytelling, that's what I like to see in DayZ, and it looks like this checkpoint here is also a logistics hub for oil. You can see the tankers and the oil silos with what looks like the first in-game look at what the highway will look like on this bridge, with 2 lanes on either side of this bridge. This also tells us that these 2 rivers will likely be bone dry throughout the map, as this is a lowland region and yet there's still no water down here. Supporting this theory even more, and even more of a lowland, is the first look at the Nastara capital. The river that runs from the north here is dry, and the river that runs from the west to the east to this capital is also dry, and that's the same river that's at the checkpoint, with this highway here coming from the checkpoint to Nastara and running across the south of the map, as evidenced by what looks like highway bridges here, but also the highway passes the south side of the city on this leaked image that we got, and there are 2 large bridges leading into the city centre, which tells us there's probably a ring road, and this image also backs that up, so this means that this screenshot must have been taken from about this position here. The centre of the city looks to be mostly walled off, probably some ancient fortifications with modern high-rises in the centre and tons of new assets, as you can see, with the devs stating that 400% more assets are coming with Badlands compared to Frostline, which I'm not sure is a troll based on the last time they mentioned 400%, because so far it looks like the DayZ marketing team is getting a lot of inspiration from Bethesda's Todd Howard.
16 times the detail.
The 400% more assets probably includes the new road signs, which will be in English and or Farsi, a Persian-based language that might as well be ancient hieroglyphics to most people, but the lore of Nastara does allow for Western influence. They did include Westerners being involved here, so English being a part of this region, it does make some sense, although most people would probably prefer some sort of ancient language, with some of these signs being visible from the highway bridges here. Other than the images, I found this sentence very interesting. Your choice of gear as well as your prolonged exposure to the sun will also have to be considered. So sunlight might directly increase our temperature, which would also drain our water faster, but also clothing like the boonie hat, the cowboy hat, or maybe the shamag might reduce the impact that the direct sun has on our character. It also looks like we might be able to cool our characters with water too. This animation here looks like they're pouring it over their head rather than drinking it. We're getting a new shirt, hype, but we're also getting a new Luger pistol as seen here. Let me and the devs know your take on all this info. They are currently gauging player feedback on Badlands and these dev blogs, which means these dev blogs do not contain the final version of the game, which means your comment could literally change what Badlands becomes. And if you plan on buying Badlands, like I do, then I'd recommend wishlisting it. The devs have not told me to tell you to wishlist it. I just recommend doing it to give them feedback on if you're actually going to buy this. Links below, which is also where you're going to find a complete Badlands playlist for more information. To get completely up to date with Badlands, what we know so far, check that playlist out. Thank you very much for watching and have a good day.